Hanian Historia. Dziękuję, że jesteś z nami. Zapraszam do oglądania. Nie zapomnij zasubskrybować i włączyć opcji dzwoneczka, aby nie przeoczyć żadnego filmu.
In the prisoner's dock sit 20-odd broken men. They are the living symbols of the arrogance and cruelty of power, of racial hatred, terrorism, and of violence. The wrongs which we seek to condemn and punish have been so calculated, so malignant and so devastating that civilization cannot tolerate their being ignored because it cannot survive their being repeated. You will see their own conduct and hear their own voices. We will show you their own films. Their acts, as we shall recount them before you, have bathed the world in blood and set civilization back a century.
That all of the defendants participated as organizers or accomplices in a common plan or conspiracy to commit crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity.
The aims of this conspiracy were open, notorious, and far different from any conspiracy ever unfolded before a court of justice. It traced its roots to Hitler's 1925 manifesto, Mein Kampf. Pistol shots and then wild firing. The heart leapt as old war experiences were relived. Its history is the history of the Nazi Party, which grew from the brawling streets of Munich in the 1920s. And from the beginning, Adolf Hitler and his followers were committed to using any means, whether or not they were legal or honorable. Their aim was the highest degree of control over the German community. Their intentions were blatantly put forth in Mein Kampf and the Nazi Party program. And they preached their favorite doctrines up and down the land. They said that persons of so-called German blood were a master race, entitled to subjugate or even exterminate other races. They said that the Germans should be ruled under the Führerprinzip, or leadership principle, by which each subordinate owed unconditional obedience to his superior, and so on, right up to Adolf Hitler. They said that war was a noble and necessary activity of Germans. And they said that the Nazi Party alone had the right to rule Germany, and the right to destroy the party's enemies. Their rise to power was based on fraud, deceit, intimidation, and coercion. Culminating finally in terror and flame. Into that flame went the democratic constitution of the Weimar Republic and the freedom of the German people. Hans Gusavius, a witness who formerly held a high position in the Berlin police administration, tells of his investigation of the Reichstag fire.
Um es kurz zu sagen, zunächst den Tatbestand zu geben, haben wir festgestellt, dass Hitler ganz allgemein den Wunsch nach einem großen Propagandacoup ausgedrückt hatte. Goebbels übernahm es, die nötigen Vorschläge hierfür vorzubereiten. Goebbels war es, der den ersten Gedanken hatte, den Reichstag anzuzünden. Es wurde eine Kolonne von 10 zuverlässigen SA-Leuten bereitgestellt und nunmehr wurde über alle Einzelheiten des Planes ins Bild gesetzt. Es wurde von Göring erwartet, er sicherte dieses zu, die Polizei im ersten Schock so zu instruieren, dass auf falsche Spuren gelenkt wurde.
Using the Reichstag fire as a pretext for seizing power, the Nazi conspirators lost no time in tearing Germany away from a policy of peace. Late in 1933, they led their nation out of the disarmament conference, quit the League of Nations, and embarked on a course of secret rearmament. By 1934, the new armaments program, designed by defendants Göring, Schacht, and Funk, was going full blast. German industry was again turning out the tools of war. The Krupp plants hummed, and 1 year later, Göring could announce, "Today, from the strong foundation of our National Socialist worldview, the German army rises once again." A few days later, General von Blomberg announced a new law for compulsory military service. The law was signed by defendants Göring, Hess, Frank, Frick, Schacht, and von Neurath. The training began. Finally, in spring of 1936, the Nazis sent their new troops marching into the Rhineland.
Mein Führer, am 7. März 1936 rückten Soldaten des auf das Gebot des Führers wiedererstandenen Heeres für den heiligen Strom unserer Geschichte in die alten Friedensstandorte. Sie geloben dem Führer, was immer auch seinem Entschluss entspringe, als dem Träger des deutschen Gewissens unverbrüchliche Treue, Gehorsam und Gefolgschaft und erweisen durch die nie versiegende Liebe zu Deutschland.
The Nazi conspirators, in the name of Lebensraum, continued to plot new aggressions against peace. In November 1937, Hitler called a special meeting with defendants Göring, von Neurath, Raeder, and generals von Blomberg and von Fritsch. The meeting was secret, but Lieutenant Colonel Hausbach, Hitler's personal adjutant, faithfully recorded Hitler's words. Germany's dilemma can only be solved by force, which is never without risk. To improve our military and political position, we have no choice but to conquer Czechoslovakia and Austria simultaneously. The annexation of these two states will provide considerable relief. This meeting set the stage for Nazi expansion, and Act I came only 3 months later at Berchtesgaden, where Defendant von Papen finally engineered a meeting between Schuschnigg, the Austrian Chancellor, Hitler, and defendants Keitel and von Ribbentrop. Guido Schmidt, who was Austrian foreign minister at the time, also attended the meeting. Schmidt was asked on the witness stand, did Hitler demand that Seyss-Inquart be made Minister of Security?
Das war ein Punkt des Forderungsprogrammes.
Question. Were there also demands made with regards to currency exchange and customs?
Es waren wirtschaftliche Forderungen weitgehender Art zur Debatte.
Question. Hitler told you that you had until February 15th to accept his terms, didn't he? And he told you that if you didn't do so, he would use force.
Es war ein Ultimatum und Hitler hatte erklärt, hatte die Absicht, schon im Februar in Österreich einzumarschieren. Habe sich noch zum letzten Mal zu einem Versuch bereit gefunden.
Faced by these threats, the Austrians carried out all Hitler's demands. But the Nazi conspirators weren't satisfied. A month later, when Schuschnigg announced a plebiscite on Austrian independence, Hitler and Defendant Göring demanded that the plebiscite be cancelled. Another ultimatum demanded Schuschnigg resign within 3 hours. Fearing invasion, Schuschnigg resigned, and finally Defendant Seyss-Inquart was appointed the new Chancellor of Austria. That same day, Göring in Berlin called Kepler at the German embassy in Vienna. The conversation was transcribed. Kepler spoke first. "We now represent the government of Austria." Göring: "That's right, you are the government. Listen carefully. Seyss-Inquart should send us the following telegram. Take this down. The Provisional Austrian Government urgently requests the help and support of the German government to prevent bloodshed. Please send German troops as soon as possible." Kepler: "SA and SS men are marching through the streets. The civil government has broken down. Seyss-Inquart is the only one who holds power in Austria now." Göring: "Then our troops will cross the border today." The act joining Austria to Germany was signed by Defendants Seyss-Inquart, Göring, Frick, von Ribbentrop, and Hess. Hitler, of course, had said, "Germany neither wishes nor plans to meddle in the internal affairs of Austria, nor does it wish to annex Austria." May 21, 1935, Adolf Hitler. The curtain fell on Act I, but already the Nazi conspirators prepared for Act II, with this 1938 memorandum from Hitler to his high command. "It is my unalterable decision to smash Czechoslovakia by military force in the near future. It is the job of the political leaders to choose the politically and militarily suitable moment." Konrad Henlein was the local Nazi political leader. The plan was labeled Operation Green. Defendant Jodl recorded in his diary, "Operation Green will be launched by means of an incident in Czechoslovakia that will provoke the need for German military intervention. Determining the exact day and hour of this incident is of the utmost importance." A few months later, Germany signed the Munich Pact with England, France, and Italy. This pact involved the transfer of the Sudetenland to Germany. The conspirators called it their last territorial demand. But before the ink was dry, they were making other plans, for Hitler's goal was the complete absorption of Czechoslovakia. And now the Czech president Emil Hacha was called to a meeting with Hitler and defendants Göring, von Ribbentrop, and Keitel. They gave Hacha an ultimatum. Bohemia and Moravia would be ceded to Germany immediately, or Czechoslovakia would be invaded and Prague destroyed from the air. Hacha was helpless. Defendants von Ribbentrop and Frick signed the decree making Bohemia and Moravia a German protectorate. Speaking some months earlier about the Sudetenland, Hitler had said, "I have given assurances and reiterate them now that Germany has no more territorial problems in Europe. I am no longer interested in the Czech state. I guarantee it." September 26, 1938, Adolf Hitler. Now, according to more of his adjutant's notes, Hitler reviewed the Nazi plan of violence and treachery from 1934 to 1939. The notes read, First of all, rearmament. In 1935, the introduction of compulsory military service. After that, militarization of the Rhineland. 1 year later, annexation of Austria. This greatly reinforced the Reich. The next step, Bohemia and Moravia. Then the Czech Protectorate established. Thus the foundation for the conquest of Poland. Basically, I did not organize the armed forces in order not to strike. The decision to strike was always in me.